I'm not worried about that. Do you have a candle? Good evening. Welcome to our Christmas Eve service at 7 o'clock. It's wonderful to have all of you here. If you are visiting, by the way, for the first time and would like to just know more about First Parish, I invite you to fill out the card that you have in front of you near the hymnals. And when the offering comes around, you can throw it in there and we'll make sure that somebody gets a hold of you. Last thing, before we start, you all please take off your cell phones. Can you take out your cell phones and turn them off? That'd be wonderful. Thank you. There's a little video that has been going around on Instagram this season that I have just captured my heart. It's so fabulous. So it's this little boy, he's about 4 or 5, and he's sitting in the back seat of his car, and his mother is filming him, and he says, "I got the best part in the nativity scene. It's a classic one." And his mother goes, "You mean a classic role, a classic character?" He goes, "Yes!" She says, "Well, are you Joseph?" And he says, "No." She says, "Well, are you one of the 3 wise men?" He's like, "No." She's like, "Well, a classic one. Love, can you tell me what you are?" And he says, "I'm door holder number 3. I get to hold doors." She says to him, well, who are you holding doors for? And he says, well, probably Mary and Joseph. Then she says, well, how'd you feel when you were picked as, door holder number 3? And he said, I was so excited. I was like, yes, you go do it. It's going to be great. I'm probably going to have to wear brown. That's what he said, I swear to God. To which his mother says, oh, that's very smart of you. You're right, probably brown. I think that's one of the reasons we come to church, actually. Because we come on Christmas to be reminded that this is the season where God was made incarnate, right? God is among us. God is within us. God is one of us. And it's always a good reminder to be sure that we are reminded that we are all sacred, holy human beings. What a wonderful thing to hold with us all the time. Whether you are a wise man, a baby in a cradle, or door holder number 3. Welcome to our celebration on Christmas Eve. It is so good to have all of you. Before we sing our first hymn, would you please rise and do a quick greeting to your neighbor this evening? Please join and sing hymn number 231, Angel Heard on High. be seated. We gather together on this Christmas Eve as fellow sojourners looking for light. We gather as people from many backgrounds, many faiths, many cultures, and many spiritual paths. But as we light this chalice, we gather as one body looking to the Nativity for its message for all of humanity. Its message that there is always light to be found, hope around a corner, there is peace, and there is love. Tonight's offering goes to the Heed Fund. Sometimes life hits you hard. It's just what life does. And sometimes we aren't always prepared for it. Whether it's for people who are members of this congregation or people who aren't, we try to help people out when they need it most. The fund has helped with emergency shelter, with food when someone is laid up with no relatives or able-bodied friends around. The fund has helped with cars breaking down in need of repair when someone's job is reliant on transportation. It has helped with things you can't imagine that you'd worry about if tragedy laid you sideways. The fund is there to remind us all that often our own safety nets are more of a privilege than we think they are. That others have safety nets with holes in them, or never had a net to begin with. The fund, friends, is our collective way of reminding each other we are each other's brother's keeper, that we are called to love one another as neighbors, as ourselves, that tender moments, tragic moments, deserve attention and love. So now, in the company of one another, let us take this evening's offering. I'd like to invite us into a time of prayer and meditation followed by some shared silence. If you could get comfortable in your seat and turn inward with me now. It happens every year on December 24th. In warm weather or frigid frost, in southern or northern halves of the globe, it happens. This awakening, this rushing of the spirit, this primal yes to life. This reminder that maybe, just maybe, there is a star above us too, guiding us to joy and an inclusive love to all who are considered odd or different or misfits, to reminder that maybe, just maybe, we each hold deep within a calling to heal the sin-sick soul, to connect with the other, to hold out our hand in love when we know not the answer to the gesture, to a reminder that maybe, just maybe, life is more than other people's judgments, more than the things we've been told we must do, more than the should and the should nots. Perhaps it might just be true if we were silent long enough that in the company of one another we can hear that still small voice within or without that says, say yes tonight, to usher in more justice, to be the calm against the storm, to offer love to those who don't deserve it or earn it, to be the light in the dark, to offer loaves and fish to all that want. Perhaps it might be true that above you is a star guiding you to all that you are, all that you can be, and all that you will ultimately be. And perhaps that star we seek is also seeking us, needing us, trying to tell us that through us, a new day is waiting and wanting to be born. Melchior, Balthazar, and Caspar. They were academics, colleagues, and friends. Melchior, or Mike as his friends called him, was chair of the wisdom department at Cairo University. He was a wise man among the wise. He and his wife Rana had 8 children. Once they got going, they really couldn't figure out how to stop. And he had a hard time remembering his children, sometimes in order, but he was always grateful that they named them alphabetically, that his oldest was Ammon, and that his youngest was Hafsa. Balthazar was the new kid on the block. He was untenured, and he was tall, dark, and handsome. He had rich mocha skin and a sleek mustache, and all the freshman girls were a whiz about him. Then there was Caspar. He was an emeritus professor, and he was grateful to be retired, but he still hung out with all his professor friends. You could always find him. He kind of was always walking with his head down and thinking all the time, and his beard would sway to and fro as he walked, and it was always sticky with his favorite addiction, which he had in the corner of his mouth, which was licorice. He'd smack on it all the time when he was thinking, and you could always tell when he was really pondering something. You could also find him because there was a sweet waft of fragrance that followed him wherever he went. Now, every Friday night, the 3 of them with their families gathered for dinner at one of their houses, and after the hummus and falafel was eaten, they would say that they were going outside to do some stargazing. Lori, I'll have... That was very uncouth, I'm sorry. They said they were going outside to do some stargazing, and that, everybody else was going to end up cleaning up because they had wise theories to really think about. But more often than not, they'd end up talking about last week's camel race or the travails of the Princess Soccer League or, the new sandal that had come out by Desert Footwear and how Mike really preferred the pre-Birkenstock model compared to the new Classic Air because that had a piece that went between his toes and it always gave him a blister. Anyway, on this particular night, it was mistless and black. And they went out and they laid down in the sand. Now, they did not lie in a line. They laid down so that all of their heads were touching each other, and they made kind of a star out around them, so they had the full dome of the sky around them. They were wise men, after all. Theory followed everything. So on this night, as they were really kind of gathering, looking at the stars, Mike looks up and he sees this blue twinkling star in front of him he's never seen before. And he says to everyone, Balthazar, you gotta take a look at this. Like, I've never seen this before. Yeah, says Balthazar. I got it. But actually his 2-year-old Miriam had kept him up all night, so he was trying to get a little shut-eye at this time. Balthazar, come on, stop being a slug, turn around. He and Caspar turned around, got up on their elbows, and looked up into the sky. And sure enough, there was a blue, twinkling star they had never seen before. A star that was pulling them towards it, asking them to come see what was on the other end. So they went in silence back into the house, and the wives knew as soon as they walked in, without saying anything, what was going on, that they would be compelled to go find out what was on the other end of the star, whether it was convenient or not. Plus, they all had premarital agreements that said that they were not allowed to be able to, get upset with them if, they were going off to figure out what was going on with the star. When they got home, Mike's wife went about trying to find a great present that Mike could bring with him. And she went through their special oils and their herbs, and she found there myrrh. Has kind of like a musty hay smell to it, but it represents holiness, the best of human potential. So she wrapped it in a piece of silk and put a pressed hay ribbon around the top. Balthazar's did the same thing. But Balthazar's wife pulled out the frankincense, which is for those who heal. And it has a really wonderful scent to it. And she knew that he was going to start smelling kind of rank after a couple days, so she made sure that it was all over all of his clothes. Because she did not want her husband to end up, in the position of just making someone uncomfortable. He was going to smell sweet. Now, Casper's wife was of a different ilk. She did not do a gift that was more philosophical. She was to the practical type. She knew that if she left it up to Casper, he would just rely on, a peak of licorice as if it were a good gift. So she took gold and she put it in all of the camels under their saddles and around their harnesses and made sure they were tucked into any pocket. And she gave an entire bag to Casper. She did think about maybe adding some checks, but, foreign merchants might ask for some kind of ID, and Casper had long ago lost his ID, and by any piece of looking at him, would you ever think he was a wise man? Bags packed, new saddles donned, they were off with a lurch. Now, during the day, they had conversations about university politics and city government, the new Egyptian plumbing theory, and the pros and cons of teaching Wisdom 101. At night, their stories and kind of questions got more, thoughtful. They turned inward more. They thought about whether or not the earth was flat or round. Had it started because of a creation or a Big Bang? How many planets were there? After 4 nights of going on this journey, they were getting quite weary and exhausted. But Balthazar actually kind of smelled nice still himself, and Casper wasn't doing so bad with all that licorice in his mouth. It was Mike who was really getting kind of, not so good smelling. Anyway, 7th night, they make their way to a small town. They have followed that star all the way there. And they see that the star is pulling them to the edge of town. There are no inns or motels or hotels available, but it doesn't really matter because they have to go to where the star is. And they find themselves right at the end of a stable, and there are a few people gathered there. So they get off their camels, they take out their gifts, and they work their way between what seems to be merchants and shepherds all gathered around, but they don't really know what's there yet. They work their way up, and that they see this couple sitting there, this wriggly piece in their arms. And they could scarce believe their eyes. They had traveled so many miles, and the miracle that they prized was nothing but a child. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, wise men saw a sign set off across the sand, chased a brand new star ever toward the west, across the mountains far. And when it came to rest, they scarce believed their eyes. They come so many miles. The miracle they prize was nothing but a child. Nothing but a child can wash those tears away and guide a weary world into the light of day. Nothing but a child, help erase those miles, so once again we all can be children for a while. All around the world, in every little town, every day is heard a precious little sound, and every mother kind and every father proud, 'cause down and ought to find another chance allowed. Nothing but a child, wash those tears away and guide a weary world into the light of day. Nothing but a child, wash those tears away and guide a weary world into the light of day. Nothing but a child, help erase those miles, so once again we all can be children for a while. Nothing but a little baby, nothing but a child. They were in disbelief. They had come so far for a baby. They took their gifts and they worked their way up to the front. They introduced themselves to the couple, Mary and Joseph, they were told. They asked the baby's name, Jesus. They put down their gifts, and Casper added a piece of licorice as well. They stepped back, they bowed to the couple, and then they moved back into the crowd. They could not understand what this was all about. They had all had babies. Heck, what was it? I mean, Mike had 8 himself, and babies, were all just about spit up and on your best robes, in fact. And, like pulling on your beard and your mustache and your hair and dirty diapers and long nights of not sleeping. They didn't get it. So they backed even more into the crowd to hear what was happening around them. Rumor had it that this child was destined for greatness, that it had the potential for bringing about a new world, a new way of thinking, a revolution of sorts. It had a clean slate. Anything was possible. In fact, this child had, of course, a star leading it there. And then as they were thinking about all this, of course, the shepherds and the other merchants started singing songs of praise. While they were listening to all of that, they kept thinking about, I don't really understand this. But they realized that the greatness was not coming from the baby. The greatness was being given as a gift of believing in something, a gift and believing in the potential of a child to have greatness out into the world, to live into the fullness of the possibility of who they could be. That night, they went to sleep on the outside of that stable, and they were lulled to sleep by a raspy cow. The next morning, they woke up with the sun warming their skin, and they got back on their camels and they headed back home. On the trip home was different than their trip there. They were all in silence for most of the time. Now, Caspar was thinking about the difference of that star in particular. How different was it than other stars that they sometimes found in the sky? And he realized the only difference was that it was blue in color. That was it. But maybe it's true that the other stars they saw were also children being born into the world, calling them forward. He thought about the brightness of the star and the color all the way home. Balthasar was thinking about his daughter Miriam and how different might it be that his daughter was welcomed with song and, gifts and songs of praise. How different was that than what was offered the baby Jesus? And he realized it was just perspective, that he too could believe in his own daughter, who had a clean slate, who had the ability to do greatness in the world, and he wanted to make sure that his daughter always knew that he believed in her potential. And he thought about her bald head and her little dimpled hands, and he smiled all the way home. It was Mike who thought about the trip more than any of the rest of them. And he thought about that Wrigley bundle, and he thought about this idea of greatness, and he thought about his 8 children, and he wondered about his parenting. He wondered, had he ever, expressed that kind of knowing to his children of the possibility of who they could be, to help them live into the fullness of who they were. He wondered. When they got home, all of his 8 children ran out to greet him, and it was this cacophony of laughter and funning with him as he was taking his stuff down. And finally, his wife, Rana, yells out to him for the kids to come in and help with dinner. And so they all left, except his youngest child, Hafsa, who was sitting on a stump watching her dad take everything off. He looked at her and realized that he didn't really know that much about his daughter. She had beautiful brown curls and olive skin and was kind of a silent, shy kid. He realized he didn't know that much about any of the children, especially the younger they got, and how important it might be to pay attention to all of that. He walked over to his daughter and he put his hand on her face, and his tears welled up in his eyes. And he promised himself then and there that he was going to believe in the potential and the greatness of all of his children, that he would figure out what it was that made them come alive, what made their light shine out to the rest of the world. In fact, his son Darius earlier, like a week ago, had told him that he wanted to become Cleopatra's next stylist, but at the time he thought it was kind of a silly notion, but now that might not be such a bad idea. Hafsa looks at her dad and says, "Papa, what are you thinking about?" And he says, "Well, I'm thinking about how Caspar gave me some licorice to pass around. Would you like some?" "Oh, I'd love that," she said. "Thank you." "I love you, Papa." "I love you too," he said. And they gave each other a hug, and they smiled at each other. And then she started telling him about, her kindergarten class and her friend Joshua. And once she got started, it was like he couldn't stop her. She had a chorus in her. But he listened with new ears that night, a new way of understanding what made his children come alive, where their greatness was. And this wise man thought to himself, maybe he wasn't that wise. Maybe he had a lot to learn about what it meant to bring greatness into the world, and that he was positive his 8 children could be his best guides. He reached down and grabbed his daughter's hand, and as they're walking in, he looked up at the sky, and there are 8 twinkling pink stars. He had never seen them before, and he knew that they were his children's stars, and that he would make sure he knew what was at the other end. He grasped his daughter's hand a little tighter and walked inside.
Praise to the moon, bright queen of the skies, jewels of the black night, the light of our eyes. Brighter than starlight, whiter than snow, look down on us in the darkness below. If well you should find us, then well let us stay. Be it 7 times better when you make your way. Be it 7 times better when we greet the dawn. So light up our way and keep us from all harm. Give strength to the weary, give alms to the poor, to the tainted and needy, 5 senses restore. Give song to our voices, give sight to our eyes, to see the sun bow as the new moon shall rise. Cast your eyes downward to our dwelling place, 3 times for favor and 3 times for grace. Over the dark clouds your face for to see, to banish misfortune and keep Trinity. In the name of the waters which springs from the earth, in the name of the rivers to whom they give birth, in the name of the oceans, the 7 deep seas, all praise to the moon for eternity.
My friends, we are going to pass the light around. I want you to do something. During this time where you have your candle, I'd love it if you thought about your own light and how you can bring joy and love and connection to someone else. And just one person that you could think of, if you shared your gifts, your light with them, how would it make their life better? Would you please join in singing Silent Night with us? If only the world were as kind as a child can imagine it. Let us be bearers of kindness, of love, and of light. Amen.